I think our industry has been asking the wrong questions. We spend hours worrying about choreography. We ask, is the combo too hard or should I add another block? Will they like this routine? But after teaching for more than 2 decades and watching thousands of people walk into classes, I've realized something very important. People don't come back because your choreography is amazing. They come back because of how you made them feel. That's what I now call the experience effect. Today, I want to show you 5 things that matter far more than another complicated block. Point 1, stop teaching choreography and start creating trust. Imagine someone walking into your class for the very first time. They don't know you. They don't know anyone, really. They don't know if they're coordinated enough. And they feel like a fish out of water. Before they can enjoy your class, they need to trust you. So the first thing I want you to think about is you are on from the moment you step out into the world in front of your participants. So if that means that someone sees you out in the car park, getting out of the car, that is the minute that you are on. You are the instructor. So that first moment, meeting someone, whether it's someone you know or someone you're meeting for the first time, is so important to the success of someone's first class. Never underestimate it. In fact, have you ever heard of those stories about people getting frustrated with people in traffic and then they rock up to the same place as that person and then realize who they're actually getting frustrated at? And then, things like that. You do not want that to happen. So what you actually want to do is that minute you get out of the car, if you see someone, say hi, give them a smile at the least. But when you're working in a gym environment, which I've had many years of doing, I think it's something like 3 touch points will determine the success of someone coming back to the gym. So that means that 3 times they have to touch base with someone in order for them to come back. And so that might be as simple as the receptionist saying hi. It might be then the instructor saying hi and then smiling at a member or something like that as the 3rd touch point for them then to come back and do their workout again at a gym. So keep that in mind as well. The first minute determines the next 59. I believe that the first 60 seconds will determine if someone's relaxed or anxious. So if you spend time on putting something so finitely together, do it for the first 30 seconds or 60 seconds of your class. That 60 seconds is like social media. They say you got to hook them in 3 seconds. You literally have 60 seconds to win them over or they're walking out the door. So plan out your 60 seconds. You want those points of connection. You want them to feel familiar and you want them to ideally know each other or have something that relates to each other within the room. So, it's always easy to talk about the weather and be like, whoa, it's so cold today, guys. Did you all have to wear like 3 jackets? Whatever it is, find that point that will connect everyone in together and make a note of that in the first 60 seconds. It's a good opportunity to actually get across to each person and give them a quick little eyeball there, raise of the eyebrows. It doesn't have to be anything big, just something very subtle to be like, I can see you and I acknowledge that you're here doing my class and I'm grateful for that. All of this helps bring them in and makes them feel part of it and they're likely to stay. Something that I like to use, I like to call the familiarity cue. And what that is a move that is new, but it's not entirely move because it's derived from another move. And I usually teach it deriving from that move so that they can see the similarity between the move you're about to do and the move you've just done. So for example, if I did a step kick to the corner, it does derive from a step touch or a step tap and clap, as I call it. So I might have them in a holding pattern of step, tap and clap. And then I might say, now all we're going to do to change this move is we're going to kick the leg instead of tap it. And if you kick the leg, you've got an entirely different move. But we haven't changed anything. It's still the same counts. You still start and end in the same position. And so therefore, they become really familiar with this move and how the move evolves from that point to that point. After all, in step, every single move either comes from a march or a step touch. A march or a step touch. No matter how complex it gets, it either comes from one or the other. And looking out for complexity is also really important. I actually have a very advanced step class. I have grown with them over the years. And in fact, I wasn't the only instructor to teach that step class over the years. There is another instructor who teaches it alongside me on a different day and gets similar people. So the two of us have kind of nurtured this group from kind of beginner level, really. We introduced step back to the gym after having a big break for a long time. So we used that opportunity to nurture the group and grow them to the point that you might see them in some of my other videos today. They're doing quite well. But one thing is, I like to get a little bit complex with them because they can do it, they can handle it. And I like to give them different options. But there is a little bit of a formula to doing that, because if I just make the whole block complex, it becomes too unfamiliar and becomes a little bit too tricky. So there are many different ways that I look at this. I try not to cross phrase the music at the midpoint. So halfway through the block, usually it stops with both feet together as if we're going to start from the beginning again, usually in the center of the block. I might cross phrase on either side of that. So I might do the first 8 counts and cross phrase over that. But it really depends on the choreography and what's needed. And by cross phrasing, I mean every move has a finish and an end. And usually you finish and end on, say, the even counts, for example. If you've got a block of 32, you're going to finish the 32 counts with both feet together, ready to start a new block. But cross phrasing means that I haven't quite finished the move. So I'm going over into the next bit of music. So, for example, I've got 8 counts, I've done a 6 count move, and then I've got a 4 count move. So I'm going to go over the last 2 counts of the 8 counts and into the next 8 counts. So I try not to put too much cross phrasing in, especially for an intermediate class, because that's where people get lost. They're used to finishing a move off and feeling that natural beat of the music, bringing their feet together, for example. The other part to this is I like to put turning in there. Turning is always optional. I always give the options to my class, and those who are more advanced take the turning options. Those who are less advanced usually don't. However, they all usually give it a go. And if I slow it down and break it down. If I slow it down or break it down for them, they usually give it a go. And slowing down only happens rarely for me. I try to keep to the normal beat of the music, but if something's just too tricky, I will slow it down and I will do it with the class slow. There is so much more that goes into complexity. I'm not going to go into that right now because I have more that I want to share with you. Every class needs moments people remember. If I asked your members about last Tuesday's class, what would they remember? What would they talk about? Would they remember a laugh, a bit of encouragement, a challenge, a connection you made with them, a story? Would they remember the choreography? Maybe, maybe not. What I do tend to find, especially when I teach step, is people may not remember the choreography, but they'll remember the beginning of the block. And that becomes really identifiable for them. What they also remember are the silly jokes you make, even if they're not funny. They remember if someone did a funny move and made everybody laugh. They remember how they felt at the end of the workout. They all remember how they feel, regardless. And that is the most important takeaway that you can take away from this, because it's not about the choreography. It's not about how complex you make it. It's how you deliver it, and therefore how you make them feel. They don't remember how the instructor watched an Instagram video and thought, that choreography is really cool, I'm going to repeat that and try and teach that. No. I mean, do it if you can figure out how it's broken down, or you've watched a video on how it breaks down. But really create the choreography around how you're going to deliver it to them so that their experience is one that makes them feel accomplished, amazing, and they leave feeling like they've had a good workout. If there's one thing I'd love you to remember, your choreography gets people through the door. Your experience keeps them coming back. That's exactly why I created the experience effect. It's the framework I've developed after years of teaching to help instructors create classes people remember. not because they're harder, but because they leave people feeling more confident, connected, and successful. I love talking about this stuff. There is so much to break down in this sphere, but what I've found is that it is about the experience and the effect that it has on people. And that's why I created the experience effect. I wanted to share my knowledge to help those who do struggle with trying to deliver amazing classes sometimes. It's not always easy, even for the best of us, to keep people coming back, especially when times externally of us get really hard and tough. There is a formula, though, that will guarantee that you will make people feel connected and warm. If this video helped you, let me know in the comments which point hit home the most. And if you'd like to learn more about the experience effect, you'll find the guide linked below. I am cheering you guys on. I hope you have an amazing week. Keep teaching awesome classes, and I'll catch you next time.